This article is about the demographic features of the population of Colombia, including population density, ethnicity, education level, health of the populace, economic status, religious affiliations and other aspects of the population. The demography of Colombia is characterized for being the third most populous country in Latin America, after Mexico and Brazil. Colombia experienced rapid population growth like most countries, but 4 decades of an armed conflict pushed millions of Colombians out of the country. However, a rebound economy in the 2000s in urban centers improved the situation of living standards for Colombians in a traditional class stratified economy. In the years following 2002, the safety has been improving throughout the country. Young citizens now invest in education so they can stay and contribute to the country's future. Census 2005 census. According to the 2005 census, there are 46,219,699 Colombians in the world. On 2005 there was 3,378,345 Colombians living permanently on exterior. More recently, according with MRE estimates, this indicator may ascend to 4,700,000 on 2012. 20th and 21st centuries. Colombian census from 1912. On 1912 census estimated 5,472,604 inhabitants. On 1918 census estimated 5,855,077 inhabitants. On 1928 census estimated 7,851,110 inhabitants. On 1938 census estimated 8,697,041 inhabitants. On 1951 census estimated 12,739,910 inhabitants. On 1964 census estimated 18,337,973 inhabitants. On 1973 census estimated 23,881,851 inhabitants. On 1985 census estimated 31,593,587 inhabitants. On 1993 census estimated 37,422,791 inhabitants. On 2005 census estimated 42,888,592 inhabitants. On 2016 census will estimate inhabitants. UN estimates. According to the 2015 revision of the World Population Prospects, the total population was 48,229,000 in 2015, compared to only 12,342,000 in 1950. The proportion of children below the age of 15 in 2015 was 24.3%, 68.7% was between 15 and 65 years of age, while 7% was 65 years or older. Structure of the population. Structure of the population. Urbanization movement from rural to urban areas was very heavy in the middle of the 20th century, but has since tapered off. The urban population increased from 31% of the total population in 1938 to 57% in 1951 and about 70% by 1990. Currently the figure is about 77%. 30 cities have a population of 100,000 or more. The northeastern lowlands departments, constituting about 54% of Colombia's area, have less than 3% of the population and a density of less than 1 person per square kilometer. Vital statistics. UN estimates. The Population Department of the United Nations prepared the following estimates. Births and deaths equals preliminary January to April fertility and births, total fertility rate and crude birth rate. Total fertility rate by departments. Registered births and deaths. Ethnic diversity. Colombia is ethnically diverse, its people descending from the original native inhabitants, Spanish colonists, Africans originally brought to the country as slaves, and 20th-century immigrants from Europe and the Middle East, all contributing to a diverse cultural heritage. The demographic distribution reflects a pattern that is influenced by colonial history. Whites tend to live mainly in urban centers, like Bogotá, Medellín, Cali, and the burgeoning highland cities. The populations of the major cities also include mestizos. Mestizo campesinos also live in the Andean highlands, where some Spanish conquerors mixed with the women of Amerindian chiefdoms. Mestizos include artisans and small tradesmen that have played a major part in the urban expansion of recent decades. The 2005 census reported that the non-ethnic population, consisting of whites and mestizos, constituted 86% of the national population. 10.6% is of African ancestry. Indigenous Amerindians comprise 3.4% of the population. 0.01% of the population are Roma. An extra-official estimate considers that the 49% of the Colombian population is mestizo or of mixed European and Amerindian ancestry, and that approximately 37% is white, mainly of Spanish lineage. But there is also a large population of Middle East descent. Among the upper class, there is a considerable input of Italian and German ancestry. Many of the indigenous peoples experienced a reduction in population during the Spanish rule, and many others were absorbed into the mestizo population, but the remainder currently represents over 80 distinct cultures. Reserves established for indigenous peoples occupy 30,571,640 hectares and are inhabited by more than 800,000 people. Some of the largest indigenous groups are the Wayuu, the Payas, the Pastos, the Imbera and the Zenu. The departments of La Guajira, Cauca, Nariño, Córdoba and Sucre have the largest indigenous populations. The organization Nacional Indígena de Colombia, founded at the First National Indigenous Congress in 1982, is an organization representing the indigenous peoples of Colombia. In 1991, Colombia signed and ratified the current international law concerning indigenous peoples, Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention, 1989. Black Africans were brought as slaves, mostly to the coastal lowlands, beginning early in the 16th century and continuing into the 19th century. Large Afro-Colombian communities are found today on the Caribbean and Pacific coasts. The population of the Department of Chocó, running along the northern portion of Colombia's Pacific coast, is over 80% black. British and Jamaicans migrated mainly to the islands of San Andres and Providencia. A number of other Europeans and North Americans migrated to the country in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, including people from the former USSR during and after the Second World War. Many immigrant communities have settled on the Caribbean coast, in particular recent immigrants from the Middle East. Barranquilla and other Caribbean cities have the largest populations of Lebanese, Palestinian, and other Arabs. There are also important communities of Chinese, Japanese, Romanis, and Jews. There is a major migration trend of Venezuelans, due to the political and economic situation in Venezuela. Languages. Spanish is the official language, and there are small communities in urban areas speaking other European languages such as German, French, English, Italian and Portuguese. There are 65 indigenous languages and 2 Creole languages, one in San Basilio de Palenque and one in San André, and also San André is the only place of Colombia where 2 are official languages. Spanish and English. There are 5,000 speakers of Romani in Colombia. Religion, migration. Historically, a sizable percentage of Colombian emigration has also been motivated by the need to escape from political persecution and bipartisan violence during the periods of La Violencia, and later due to the effects of the nation's current conflict. This has resulted in numerous applications for political asylum abroad. Colombians have emigrated in comparably high rates to the United States. Other Colombians migrated to Canada and Europe, among other locations. Today, millions of Colombians have returned to the country due to improvements in security. Colombia is now a country on the road to recovery. Colombia is creating an economy that is today considered attractive and prosperous by many national and international investors. There are policies of the Colombian government to help Colombians with housing loans. There is a support system for returning migrants. Certificates of competency are issued and there is a free employment service to help people find job. CIA World Fact Book Demographic Statistics. The following demographic statistics are from the CIA World Fact Book, unless otherwise indicated. Population 48,637,910. Median age. Total 27.7 years. Male 26.7 years. Female 28.6 years. Sex ratio at birth 1.03 male. Female under 15 years 1.02 male. Female 15 to 64 years 0.95 male. Female 65 years and over 0.75 male. Female total population 0.96 male. Female HIV/AIDS adult prevalence rate 0.7%. HIV/AIDS people living with HIV/AIDS 170,000. HIV/AIDS deaths 9,800. Nationality none. Colombia. Adjective Colombian. Literacy definition age 15 and over, can read and write. Total population 93.4%. Male 93.1%. Female 93.7%.